Travis been good though. Had an hour and a half crash. So in 2014, I got freed miraculously from the 6 years of bondage because of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I didn't know yet that they had paid the Judas price to have me locked up, that they had financially rewarded a number of people for having locked me up. But I was free. And I had gotten help getting acquainted with the brand new internet with Google search and such. I had AOL back in the 2000s until my dad had gotten NetNanny, and somebody with Hotmail tanked both of our computer systems, thinking they were protecting us from porn. And so I was introduced to the Go Fish dating app, whatever it was, and there was another one that Mormons mostly used, though you could be a bad Mormon too. You just had to say so. They didn't have it that specific, so that if you're a Mormon who drinks Mountain Dew, you didn't have your segregated group to stick to. And I was also introduced to social media. And I had gotten an account with Pinterest to resume my fashion again. Fashion plates, this time digital, which was just a dream, sort of. I had to still download them. I had miraculously had enough money to buy a person's computer in that building that I was in, and still had to buy a new monitor and a printer, copier, scanner, with the next month's money that I received. But I'm hooking up to the internet. But I was also on Facebook, as I would go to find out that my data would be sold to Russia to rig the 2016 election. And this was only 2014. And I was introduced, or I had put out friend requests, I guess they were called. And a number of them were female models. So again, this is like awesome. I'm free and I'm back in my women's fashion again. And there was one model for the Russian MPL who, when I first connected with her, she was in Mexico going to the university down there. And then she'd eventually go up into Russia again. I didn't really know world events yet. Still trying to acclimatize myself to the new technologies. But we had Facebook chats back and forth, and she often initiated by reaching out to talk with me. She liked it that I was a scientist for Paleo-Hebrew. She herself was doing research on light waves through water bubbles, and paying for it all with her modeling. So it wasn't a lawyer or doctor that she was paying her modeling with. And then Putin, after annexing Crimea on my birthday, would later in August meet resistance that he had to send in the troops. And so there were some clashes that August. And I would go on to lose Anya as a friend. Anya Alexavia. As she had to show her loyalty to Putin or be murdered along with her family. And over the years, I would have a Russian who would contact me to ask me for my Paleo-Hebrew research. And apparently they're not training their Russian citizens to be honest in communication. Apparently that's what they do, is they are raised to lie and deceive and to steal and to cheat and to make stuff up, like on Chekhov on Star Trek, always claiming that Russia invented this, Russia invented that. Oh, you're rewriting history, are you? And so, yeah, Navalny was the big news this morning as he was murdered in prison. And so, having been through that situation, I know exactly how he feels as a dead man now. Because that's what the church tried to do to me. I was in opposition to the church as I filed a petition for redress of grievances, and they had me wrongfully locked up as a terrorist, just like Navalny, when all Navalny was a political opponent. All I am is saying, hey, the church is wrong on their translations. And the abuse I'm getting over the first wife. And yeah, they tried to torture me and murder me while I was locked up. I survived. Navalny did not. And there was a time on YouTube where I recognized that I was being stalked by Russians. And so, when Steven Seagal had come out with a new movie, but he was out in Russia now, I put out the call. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find, and asked if they could provide Steven Seagal's new DVD, and they did. But I wouldn't receive it for 6 months. So I had to put out another YouTube video. Hey guys, come on. What's the deal? And sure enough, it was made available sooner. I've even done the video. If that's all they wanted my Paleo-Hebrew research for, was to try to figure it out so that they could figure out their unique Russian characters, you just asked me, I would have told you. And I did a video once doing a Russian decipherment of one of their letters. It's their equivalent of the Cairo. It was easy breezy to do. Don't know why Russians couldn't have done it. Just gotta use science. It's that simple. It was created by science, so it has to be deciphered by science. But when you lie, cheat, steal, I guess you don't see it. You get lazy. And so I was in West Valley City when I was using this camera, and the complaints that I got all the time was that my fans were too loud in the background. So I still have to open up my window even though it's central air. It's who designed this? But anyway, such is the way my life is right now. I've had lots of dreams in my life that have made an impression and have shaped me. One of the earliest dreams I recall was when I was in Placentia. In Michigan, actually. I remember seeing a tornado as my mom was driving by it, and it seemed so real in the dream, and I had walked by to school. There was a little plank of wood over a creek there in the park, and I was asking one of my peers why it was so muddy and such, and talking about the possibility of maybe it was a tornado, because in first grade Mr. Childs had a little tank thing, glass tank, by which he could make tornadoes in it. So that was pretty cool. And so that's most likely what triggered the dream of seeing the tornado, and thinking that was the damage to that bridge area. No, it was just a dream. Because my mom has no clue or recollection of a tornado. She does remember the car accident. That one wasn't a dream. And so yeah, I've had to learn that if there's something not normal that happens or exists in what my memories are, that it's most likely from a dream that I had. So the dinosaurs on Sierra Vista Elementary when I was in Southern California, yeah, that was a dream. They were chasing my family as I was watching. Yep. Oh, one of them, T-Rex got my sister Tiffany. Now, in 1986, I had the biggest dreams of all. This was when I was staying up late during the summertime, the summer of '86. And so I would end up sleeping until noon, 2 o'clock in the morning, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. because of that. And so I realized that longer sleeps, I recall more information from my dreams. And so the summer of '86 was a big dream thing for me. As I would go on later in life to find out that it was a prophetic dream of two X's. Great. I'm a 16-year-old boy being told I'm going to have two failed marriages. Yeah. We're not here to talk about that dream or the dream that I had when I was being held captive by the church for 6 years of my life. Got some wind blowing in. Cool. And so no, we're going to talk about the one that got me into these apartments. Talk about that one. You know, good old Anya. She even sent me an exclusive photo from her photo shoot. I'll put the closest equivalent because I have no idea how I'm going to find it in my files, if it still remained. I had a similar problem to what happened on Valentine's Day back in 2017. So at the beginning of the latter days, and now right before the end of the latter days, another coincidence. At least this time, if I can't get the laptop fixed, the damage will be minimal because I've been transferring files. So I just have to find out where I last left off in the transfers to see what needs to be recovered. But yeah, I already see that the PNG that I made of my t-shirt needs to be redone. If the laptop is a complete bust, thank you, Oaks, and your little mechanical rocks that fly and were thrown at me in the 13th dream. But back at the end of December 2014, I had a dream in which I was moving to a new apartment. And the Elders Quorum president in the downtown Salt Lake City ward that I was in that dream, and he was helping me move, which is common. That's why it was in my dream, because that's what I know. And so oftentimes things that I know are incorporated in dreams. So dinosaurs eating my parents, sure. I was into all of the Godzilla movies and Johnny Sacco and his giant robot and other stuff like that. So often were portrayed. The one and only nightmare I've had to this day was because of having watched a Freddy Krueger movie. Freddy Krueger was in my dream, and he was chasing me, and he was cheating. But other than that, I've enjoyed my dreams and wish I could stay in my dreams forever. And then Avatar came out, and I go, oh, okay, yeah, that's just exactly what I want to do. But in December 2014, I get a dream, and I'm moving. Elders Quorum president's helping me, and all of my boxes get moved to this one apartment hallway right outside the door. And I then realize that it's the wrong apartment. And so I'm having to ask, as I'm having to adjust the camera, 1080, and it wants to blur the photo. And I see on another apartment down the hall the number 2020. I go, oh, I'm supposed to move to that one. And he doesn't want to help. and I wake up, and I think nothing of that until I try to get into I think it's the Peter Pan Apartments downtown. I had to get a cashier's check, and back at that time I was forced on a payee service, and so I had to call my case agent and say, hey, I found an apartment. They require that I provide cashier's checks for first month's rent and deposit to get to their office. And so they tried to rush it. It was against policy. And so I was able to get out there the next morning before 10, I think, to have it printed and ready for me. And I went back downtown to the office of the apartment building, and another couple had just barely beaten me. They were there at the desk signing the papers. Lost the apartment. Just barely. Because of that little technical glitch that I was unaware of and could have had that same day if I was aware of it. But nope, not at all. So I went back to the apartment I was living in, and the person in charge of finding apartments for us, they had found one out in West Valley, and so I got to move out to West Valley. Talking with the property manager at the time, she said, when do you want to move in? I believe it was first week of February, I think, when that was available for me. So it was probably January when I tried to get into the apartment, later at the end of the month, but regardless of when it was. And so when she asked me, when do you want to move in, that's the first thing that came to my mind, was that dream. Because I couldn't figure out 2020. And because there's no 20th month, 2020, that's years from now. And instead, I realized that this was the first apartment that is the wrong apartment. February 20th. And so yes, I tell her, 20th. Fully thinking that this is a fulfillment of the dream. That the Peter Pan Apartments, if that's what they were the wrong apartment. So I thought I was now fulfilling it by going on the 20th to the second month, 20th day. And so she said, great, okay, that's a Friday. And then she would go on to call me back and say, the 20th is a Friday. Would Monday be okay with you? All right. And so it technically was on the 23rd. And when I could move in, because that's when she was able to be there. She had Fridays off. And so thus began my adventures out in West Valley. All these years that I've been doing videos on this camera, on this computer. And so then the church stepped in again and were again attacking. Not happy that I went back to my old ways, didn't repent, So they had to take away my agency and punish me. And yeah, that's the, gotta bring the book out. I sued the church again. Memories on the corner of my mind, or patterns on the corner of my mind. Having sued the church in federal court, was retaliated against by the church. They used the property management and the payee service to attack me. The payee service began tampering with my money to purposely cause problems. And the property manager, at the end of 2020, wanted me kicked out, but they didn't do it the right way. They didn't do it legally. She tried to murder me. And all of the videos that I did on that. And so in the end, after failing, she then sent me a death threat. Property manager sent me a death threat. Signed, dated, all official. Documented evidence. We're letting you go this year, but next year we're gonna get you. Nobody cared. Nobody would do anything to stop them. I'm helpless. Not the police, not the government, nobody. And so the next year came. I'm still doing YouTube videos, still exposing the church, still daring to molest and make them afraid. And 2020, in case you didn't know, was the fulfillment of the Exodus prophecies for the latter days. Go back over the story of Moses and the Exodus. What were the events that happened? He sues in Pharaoh's court. Signs in the heavens of the latter days, 3 days of darkness. Stars falling from heaven. And Putin now can do stars falling from heaven. They say that they can't hurt us on Earth, but there's this thing called gravity. It's a national security threat, guys. Come on. Come on. Putin's very good at all this. He's been doing it to us for decades. And yet the government still wants to let them go and get away with their crimes, and they escalate. And I get shut down by YouTube right before conference. And so yeah, again, 14th of February, they're early this year for the April conference, but fits the pattern. Again, coincidence. And and so I'm not really doing much videos. I think they got me on TWG also. And so I'm stuck. Can't communicate to anybody. YouTube is tanking my views for the algorithms. If you're not going to produce videos, Travis, we can't justify promoting your videos. You're not in the partner program trying to make money off of us. So sorry. You're going to have to be throttled and silenced. And then comes a news bombshell. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is linked to a designated hate group. by the Southern Poverty Law Center, a membership of the secret combination of America. And I refer you to Helaman chapter 6, where the Nephites join with the band of Gadianton. Secret combinations, secret words, signs, tokens, and covenant paths. And punishing Travis in verse 24 for being a whistleblower, judged by their laws, not the laws of the land or the laws of God. And so I needed to risk getting completely banned on YouTube altogether. Still on probation for a bogus thing. So I make the risk. It's like right before conference, a week before conference, that October 2021. And so I put it in. And YouTube didn't punish me. Completely cancel me. But got the video out and then tried to do some conference videos, which, yeah, it boosted my ratings because it was conference, but it wasn't as good as it would have been if I had been left alone. And so, conference comes and goes, and I'm doing research. I'm trying to find a source for a Mormon myth about Adam-on-Diamond. And I find it. It's not a member of the 70. It's Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., where on pages 290 and 291 Lucifer transfers authority of government. He has the keys of government, huh? To Jesus. I'm already trying to tell you guys we're the learning of the Jews. Therefore, Jesus can't be the Christ. Constantine created him. Therefore, he's not real. Homoousion means not real. And yet, how many billions believe in Jesus? Over 4 billion believe in Jesus as real because of Constantine's lie. And so the whole Armageddon thing in Israel right now is because people believe Jesus is coming if they commit being the bad guys. But that's not the prophecy of the Jews. And so, by doing these videos at the bus stop where I get my weekly checks, I was given this. I see the patterns. This was an anomaly. Those missionaries don't take the bus. They're on bikes. They had a metro security that was used at the temple in Taylorsville. Follow me. They were stalking me using metro security. And so putting the pieces together, metro security, waiting in the parking lot there by the bus stop, making sure I'm not up to something, knowing my patterns, because they're stalking me. And sure enough, the payee service again screwed up my finances the next year. And so I called them on it. Come on, guys. And they tried to claim, oh, it was because of last year. No, in March this year, it was all taken care of. It's all fixed and settled. No, last year. So I had to go above their head to their bosses, filing an official complaint, tampering with my money. And they quit. And even further, they contacted the source of my money and told them not to give it to me. So they deprived me of my money. I can't pay for rent. But because I can't pay for rent, my rental apartment is now rent controlled, and oops, I'm now paid up for 18 months because of the final rent amount that was paid to them. As sure enough, the property management also was replaced with a new property management right after losing my money. It's just a coincidence. Had nothing to do with the death threat by the property manager the year before. See how evil this church is? See how coordinated of a conspiracy is against me. There's a financial trail. People were rewarded. And eventually they had to go after me through one of the other tenants who had been stalking me on YouTube with a fake channel names on YouTube. And she even told me that that's what she does. She even thought it would be okay to pretend to be a black girl on a social media channel. No longer racist since 1978. And so yeah, she outright lied and accused me of something completely false. And she had warned me that that was going to be done to me by somebody else. And yet it was her who did it. And so yeah, I got booted out, sent to the shelter, which the church had already prepared to be a drug house, with dogs that they knew I was allergic to, and to be poisoned by the drug residue. As Gail Miller is the human trafficker here in Utah, through those shelters. A whole bunch of people are getting paid to attack me and murder me and keep me incarcerated again, to lose my property again. Fortunately, I was able to get a storage unit because I was able to get my money back. And the guy on the line was pissed that I didn't get my money. But the shelter purposely tried to keep me in there and were successful for 9 months. And finally, when the caseworker at the shelter was told to placate me by making me think that I'm going to get a place to live by just driving me around to different places that would say, oh no, you don't qualify. Giving me the false hope that I'm going to have something weird's going on. Oh, that's interesting. I just got a warning that a potential hacker was blocked. Oh my God! I'm doing the video about it, My security system that I had to spend a whole night on with this transfer. Dear God. And people just say, no, Travis, you're delusional. The church isn't out to get you. Nobody's trying to hurt you. And so we're driving around, failure after failure, and I'm catching on. And she goes and tells me, oh, by the way, the money that we promised you that we had, we don't have. You're going to have to be able to pay for it all by yourself. Really? So upsetting. But we go to the one apartment by the track station, by the shelter, and the manager shows up late and says, no, we don't have any apartments open. We haven't had apartments open for years. I'm going, oh man. But then he says, we do have 8,000 units that are being built downtown, or not down in Salt Lake. Gave us the address. And so we come out here. It's this apartment complex. And I qualify. This apartment was available according to the low income apartment requirement that's required. And they say that I can get a hold placed on the apartment if I come up with the money to pay for it that day, and it had to be a cashier's check. And so we had to go down and to my Cyprus credit union and get it. And I'd left my ID back at at this apartment leasing office, but I still was able to get it through the credit union. Couldn't go to the 7-Eleven and pay extra money for it. That was out of the way, so it was better to go to my Cyprus credit union. And I was expecting to have it paid back, but again, she had told me that no money, and so I'm gonna have to pay for it all myself. And it was such that I could, but I would be financially depleted. And so we fill out the paperwork, and I get notified on the week before, I think it was like the 16th or the 17th. I think it was the 17th of February last year, when I was told that I needed to come in and sign some more paperwork. And so I come in on Monday. Apparently they had people that were working there. No, actually it wasn't Monday. It must have been the 13th. And I'm, whatever the date was, I'm notified that I had to come out and fill out some more paperwork. And so sure enough, I do. And it was raining that day. I had to go out myself. Caseworker has been fired, and because she had failed to keep me out of that apartment. She had failed to do her job, and she got fired. And I come home unaware that she had gotten fired, that she just abandoned me and said there was no money. And the police liaison that I was also working with, it was Police Chief Caruth, guy that just got terminated for being a dumbass and letting things slide. Yeah, him too. He's involved in this conspiracy. Isn't that great? Told you to watch out for the new police chief if she was just going to conform and comply as the new replacement, make everybody feel good, or if she was going to crack down and actually do her job. And she's just making everybody feel good. And so I'm telling her, as I'm trying to check back into the shelter, that I got this apartment, it's available, the reservation is set, but the caseworker betrayed me and said she had the money and then didn't have the money, and so she says, "Oh yeah, I've got the money. I can help you with this and pay everything for you." Oh, okay. I'm gonna hold you to it. And so I guess I did get in on the 20th. I guess they didn't have the office closed because the two of us went in to sign the final paperwork, and she said, promised them right there that she was going to pay for it. And they said that I can I think it was the 17th. Yeah, it was the 17th. I'm forgetting things now. I have to go back to the archives to find out. But regardless of what the event was and whatever, I was not able to move in on the 20th. It's a holiday. And they said, the 21st is the earliest you can move in. Okay. And so I got in on the 21st instead of the 20th. So that part I can associate and remember. And then she would then go on to pay for the February and the deposit on the 23rd, and she wasn't going to pay for the first month. I had to remind her that she promised, as well as getting my stuff out of storage. She promised she was going to pay for it. And there was problems getting my stuff out either also because of the manager of the storage unit. But yeah, 2 apartments, both I wanted to move in on the 20th but couldn't. Ended up being the next available day. Very weird. And so the 23rd I move in, and that's when I started paying for it through the payee service. And then 2023, that's when it was paid for on the 23rd. Weird. And so I'm going, wow, this is a dualism dream that I had had way back in 2014 in December. And then as I remembered, 2020, oh my God, that was the Exodus year. That's when I was supposed to move to go to Zion, but not a single one of you so here we are repeating history again. This time Mormons will be compelled to believe. And it'll be a sad day. And even if they fail again, they failed in 2020. Even if they fail on the 8th April 2024, or if they decide to jump the gun and do it on that conference weekend, whenever the 9/11 event of the day that shall burn as an oven shall happen, if they fail, we still have the election. And that they've already said, America is over. America will be destroyed for this election, whether they succeed with the 9/11 event or fail again. This election will destroy America for good. All of the privileges and prosperity you think you have, living paycheck to paycheck, will be gone. All for the false hope and promise that you will prosper under a kingdom. So, I just thought I'd share my dreams with you.